Okay, we are ready to go.
Wonderful. Welcome back from summer, everyone on the committee, and welcome to the September 29th, 2025 meeting of the Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Maya Donahue, and I'm the Vice Chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by the Assistant District Manager, Brendan Bird, and this meeting is called to order at 6:31 p.m. As a reminder, the New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time of the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field your questions from the public. So we have nobody who's volunteered to take minutes. Do we have any volunteers? Thank you, Jim. And now we'll take attendance.
Okay. Committee members, I will call your names. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majid Abdul Samad. Tanya Arias.
Present.
Victoria Benatar. See. Daniel Bernstein.
Present.
Jim Collins.
Yep.
Maya Donahue.
Present.
Alec Militek.
Present.
Rich Mintz.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Sandra Sherrod won't be with us tonight. And James Vera.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board's office and reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand now. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the June 9th meeting, 2025, were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the June 9th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Now, in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand, and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom, and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. Chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing, like an email address, what was already said aloud for the record during the meeting. All right. So we'll move on to the first agenda topic for tonight, discussion of an application to modify a previously approved special permit at 599 Lexington Avenue involving the installation of new pedestrian amenities, including seating and planters. And I believe we have something.
Yes, we have the applicant present.
Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah. On my screen. Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Lee, and I'm here with Wesley O'Brien. We're Land Use Counsel for BXP. We're the owner of the 599 Lexington Avenue Commercial Office Building. I'll share my screen because we have a deck. We'll watch.
Beautiful.
Let me know when you're able to see the screen.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
you're loaded.
Great, perfect. So I'm here tonight to present a proposal to allow the permanent installation of pedestrian amenities within the triangular open space at the northeast corner of the 599 Lexington Avenue site. So next slide. Oh no. Okay. Oop. Is it coming up on your end?
Yeah.
It's a delay. Apologies for that. So the 599 Lexington Avenue site has full lot frontage on the east side of Lexington Avenue between East 52nd Street and East 53rd Street. The 599 Lexington Avenue Commercial Office Building, which you see on the right-hand side, was constructed pursuant to a special permit in 1984. The 1984 special permit was for major subway improvements, which granted a floor area bonus for construction of new entrances, subway entrances, and connections between the 53rd Street Lexington Avenue Station and the 51st Street Lexington Avenue Station. The new entrances, which are marked in turquoise arrow on the screen, are widely used and are located at the northeast corner of Lexington Avenue and East 53rd Street and along East 52nd Street. Together with the new entrances, as part of the special permit, non-bonus open spaces, which are outlined in red on the screen, were provided primarily for access and connections to the subway entrances and approaches to the building's lobby. One of the open spaces is the triangular open space, as you see in the zoomed in screen, at the corner of Lexington Avenue and 53rd Street, which currently houses the main entrance to the 53rd Street's Lexington Avenue Station. This space lacked amenities and served as a hardscape pedestrian thoroughfare, as you can see in this picture that we have taken back in 2023. Now, just to sidetrack, given all of the work that the applicant has been doing in the area, including the hue at 601 Lexington across north of East 53rd Street, the applicant also wanted to upgrade this space with pedestrian amenities that the community can use and enjoy. So in 2023, in coordination with the Department of City Planning, the applicant had temporarily installed amenities on a trial basis to test fit the size, placement, and configuration of various amenities. Upon initial installation, the public's response was overwhelmingly positive, with increased usability of the space. So next slide will show you the layout. Shown on the screen is the layout of the pedestrian amenities, which includes 3 modular hexagonal seating and planter clusters and planter boxes for small trees and shrubs. So this is what you see actually on the site today, and this is the proposed layout. The clusters are strategically located so as not to obstruct pedestrian circulation paths and access to entrances and to the subway and the building's lobby. As you can see with the dimensions that are marked here, they're very generous and provides no obstructions for access to the subway and the entrance to the lobby, which is right at the cursor where I'm pointing. The planter boxes for small trees and shrubs are also placed along the edges to soften the edges of the buildings where it lines with the building's blank walls. And the next series of slides will walk you through some of the photographs of the existing conditions with the installed pedestrian amenities. This is a view looking into the building from Lexington Avenue, and this is looking out from actually the same corner. And these are one of the clusters, the hexagonal clusters with seating and planters that are hierarchically arranged. This is approaching into the lobby and a view from the lobby out to 53rd Street. And then this view is actually walking out now towards 53rd Street, looking south. And this is one of the views that we were able to capture looking at the subway entrance and a signage that's located to direct the public about the open space. And lastly, this is a view from the corner of 53rd Street and Lexington looking into the building and the open space. And as you can see, the spaces has been widely used by the public with many sitting and also perching on the clusters and interacting socially or even using the space as a respite. We think this amenities also with seasonal plantings and lightings really create a vibrancy of the space, creating an urban oasis in the heart of East Midtown. And lastly, this action, in order to make this amenity permanent features, we have filed an application for a non-ULURP modification to update the previously approved Z3 drawing sheet, which is essentially the site plan under the 1984 special permit. So that's the action that we are before the community board.
Thank you.
Take any questions you may have.
Yeah. Does anybody have any initial thoughts or questions?
Initial question, how does this area fit into the agreement for the MTA easement, which you mentioned at the outset?
Yes, the easement agreements are actually within the entrances. So let me go back to the site plan.
Okay, so the setback has nothing to do with that and it doesn't impact that easement.
Correct, correct, yeah. And then we had provided ample clearances. That's why we have the offset of from the entrances, yes.
Okay, can I ask you a question quickly about the easement itself, if you are familiar with the responsibilities of the owner? Are you doing the maintenance of that structure over the steps?
I'll actually have to get back to you. I'm happy to get back to you on that. I didn't review the easement right before this call. So in terms of the maintenance, we can follow up.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a heads up that the MTA board is voting this week to modify the subway service so that the F train will return to this station. And so the signage, if it's your signage, will have to be ordered it's gonna start in a couple of months.
Ah, no, that's helpful intel. Yes. Thank you.
Well,
Any other questions?
Good question. What is the total seating capacity?
So right now, the actual DCP has a standard seating where they require it to be a certain height and a depth. So we have 51 linear feet of seating meeting those specific height and depth per the standard plaza regulations. However, we did not count other perchable or other seating areas that are slightly lower or slightly higher. Now, as you can see, this is a large, approximately 8,000 square foot corner here. So it is slightly sloped, so there would be a variation in height based on that for stormwater drainage and runoffs.
I pass by this every morning on my way to work. I live only a few blocks away, and every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's full. Every seat is occupied. And
Yes.
every evening when I come home, every seat is occupied. If there were a way, and I would love to sit here, one day after work on my way home or even to take a break. And if there were some way in which the seating configuration could be maximized, so that way there could be even more seats available in the future, I think that would be a real asset, also considering that there aren't many public open spaces in this area.
We can look further into it. One of the main special permit requirement was to have unobstructed access ways to the subway, around the subway entrances and to the building. So we did our best in laying out the seating, but we can also take a look as well.
I think this is a great proposal as far as meeting the committee's ideas about more green space, and also, as any of you have walked by, a lot of concrete, and so I think this will help mitigate some heat island effect that we particularly feel in Manhattan. I did have a question on if we're going to be increasing the seating, which I'm very for. I don't see in the map, but are you increasing the number of trash cans around in the area?
We are proposing approximately, I believe, 3 trash cans within this space that did not have trash cans. Yes, it's not marked here, but I believe one's located here. Another one is probably around here and at this corner. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. It's like I can envision many lunches there, and
Yes.
I'd like the lunch to be able to go somewhere when it's done.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions?
Well, I have a comment. When I Google map 599 Lexington, it shows on Third Avenue.
Well, it's like, it takes up a large part of the.
No, but it's showing it like in the border of Third Avenue and.
That's
I
probably.
think that's Google's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe, but maybe because they're working on it, they can,
Yeah, I believe, I also live near here that they meaning the building, they have special permits because they even have like different street lamps and those kinds of things. So I think they own or in some way control most of the block. All right, so generally, as a committee, are we feeling supportive?
No objection.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Does anybody want to write a resolution to that effect for next month?
I was just saying,
No
Do we have
objection.
to? It's a non-ULURP application.
Do we have to?
We don't have to.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, we don't have to, but also if the committee were to write a resolution, it really needs to be passed at the next full board because this was something that originally came to us over the summer.
Okay,
So, and it's thanks to the good graces of, our sister agency, the Department of City Planning, that we were able to review it at this meeting to begin with.
understood.
I have a question for Jim. Jim, what is your understanding between no objection and a resolution of support?
No objection just is. No objection, support is affirmative support of it,
Because I'd like to propose.
because we do that with.
I would like to propose that we be more affirmative in support, because it does seem to be a spirit on the committee that we really like this.
I have no objection.
Miss Lee, are you?
I just routinely, we've always, this and liquor licenses and what have you. That way, if somebody comes up and says, why did you guys approve this? Approval versus no objection is,
Well, it's
You know,
not
we didn't-
approval, it's just we express our support.
yeah,
This
well,
application.
that can get you in trouble with people that oppose it. That's why.
I'll leave
Well,
it
is
at
there,
that.
have we heard any opposition?
No, not tonight.
Miss Lee, are you guys looking for a statement of support specifically, or? What are you?
We'd appreciate the statement of support, since this will also be presented to going back to the City Planning Commission for their final vote. And it would be wonderful to have community board support.
Understood. Larry, does that mean you're volunteering to write it?
All right.
Thank you,
It has to be seconded.
I second.
thank you.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Majid Abdul Samad,
Favorite.
Tanya Arias,
In favor.
Victoria Benatar,
In favor.
Daniel Bernstein,
In favor.
Jem Collins,
In favor?
Maya Donahue,
In favor.
Al Militic,
In favor.
Rich Mintz,
favor.
Larry Shire,
In favor.
and James Vera.
In favor.
With all 10 committee members present in favor, this resolution passes and Larry will write it.
Shortly before our meeting. Our full board meeting.
We got a little time there.
That's fine.
The last time I had to do it was like the next evening.
Well, thank you for your presentation. We are excited to see the changes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time too. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next, we'll have an update from the New York City Department of Design and Construction on the East River Waterfront pinch point by East 14th Street.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let me share my screen because we also have a presentation for you all.
Can you move the mouse off his nose?
Totally unintentional.
So good evening, all. My name is Andrew Morris. I'm a project manager at the Department of Design and Construction. And we wanted to share with you an update for this new upcoming East Side Greenway 14th Street Connector project. I'll just give you an update as to where we are. So before I do that, I wanted to sort of dive into the procurement details. I understand that this project has some history being developed as a flyover bridge, for example, but after some additional discussion, some planning that went into this project, the procurement process that we're proceeding with is the design build procurement, which is a little different than what folks typically see with the design bid build model. And what we have here on the screen right now is the sort of the full process that we have in front of us. So ultimately, it's a two-step process for the procurement. It starts off with an RFQ, which goes out to the industry. Very limited information about our project to really just try and organize project team members so that we can narrow down the competitive pool to 3 shortlisted proposers to then enter the RFP process, which provides more direct information about the project itself. And the purpose behind moving forward with this design build process is to not follow your typical lowest bid contractor in like the design bid build model. But instead, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the right team that can help develop a design solution based off of requirements that we put together as a team to sort of satisfy our requirements as well as just trying to expedite the whole process. So again, on the screen right now, you have what the design build process would look like. Again, we will go from the RFQ process down to the RFP. And since this is a guaranteed maximum price procurement, we have an initial target price for the overall project, which is approximately $160 million. And after we select our design builder, our preferred vendor, we would enter the phase one services, which is ultimately a like very early stages of the design process, so that we can negotiate through an open book pricing plan the final contract value based off of their solution for the process. After we negotiate the final cost proposal, we enter the phase two services, which ultimately is the last design phase, as well as construction. And now the benefits of doing design build in this instance is not only do we get the best value vendor to proceed with our project, work with someone that we're very comfortable with, one that we actually prefer their design approach for example, but it also eliminates the at most times, the very lengthy procurement period after design is completed, which may even lead to bid busts. We already have a target price with our design build process. And so after design is completed, or even before design is completed, we get to engage in early work construction. And so towards the end of design, the design team is already working on all the regulatory agency filings. And so the post-award phase for design build process is much more consolidated and quicker. And so what we've been finding on our projects at DDC is a much quicker delivery utilizing the design build process. We understand that this project is of utmost importance for the community. And so this was a great candidate for us. So just for perspective, again, we wanted to provide you with an update. I have it on the screen here, the We Are Here bubble. We just had our draft RFP released to our 3 shortlisted proposers. So unfortunately, I do not have a design scheme to share with you all today, since we don't have one yet. But we are, again, at the early stages of the RFP in-market period, where we're starting to engage with these 3 shortlisted proposers, inform them of all of our different requirements that we have, and then start working with them in these confidential collaborative meetings to come up with the right solution while we figure out who the best team is on our project. So that is ultimately what design build is for us. So on this slide here is just some very quick notes. Again, that RFQ, the very first part of the design build procurement process, we released that in March of 2025. We announced our shortlist in July 2025. Again, the shortlist is those 3 preferred vendors that we're moving forward with to try and select the one. And then our RFP was released again in September of 2025, September 18th to be exact. With all that said, again, I spoke to you about going through this whole RFP process. We anticipate registering the contract and going into NTP with our selected design builder in Q3 of 2026, which would lead to the phase 1 services. Again, that's the early stages of design, going through PDC, going through the community board again, finalizing the final cost proposal, and initially, our thoughts are that construction would commence in Q1 of 2028. And then construction completion would be in Q3 of 2030. And again, I do want to stress that we understand from the community that this is a very important project. But again, this would be the quickest procurement at this stage, after we've already finalized where we were going with this project. Project is approximately $160 million. And again, we're moving forward with these 3 shortlisted proposers, just for reference of who they are. We have Skanska, Walsh Constructing Co., and Weeks Marine, with their design leads. And then, of course, I do want to say, what is this project? Where are we ultimately landing? I know the Community Board 6 is very well aware of the East Coast resiliency projects that are ongoing. So the greenway that we're proposing to build would be in water, essentially connecting the project area 1 of East River Park to project area 2, where we have already completed various projects like Sty Cove Park. And so this greenway would essentially form a connector of these 2 projects from the East Coast Resiliency Project. So here on this slide, it's just a reference for you all to talk about some of the different requirements that we're dealing with. Again, this is not a design. This is just a proof of concept that we have on your screen, just to make sure that the requirements that we set out for our shortlist proposers is feasible. But ultimately, what we've set out in our RFP is to have a in-water structure to be constructed with separated pedestrian and bicycle paths, to ultimately limit the use of that 4-foot wide pinch point that we all know between FDR and the Con Edison Pier, that leads from Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk leading into East River Park. And so I understand that there was the flyover bridge concept. There was a lot of reasons as to why we could not pursue that option from a feasibility standpoint, from a structural standpoint, with the FDR and the Con Edison Pier in such close proximity. And so the separated pedestrian and bicycle path has now been pushed out into the water, which allows for a nice greenway path in the water with some awesome views. But of course, this comes with several different constraints that we have to deal with. For example, the 14th Street MTA tunnel that we have to navigate around, and the spans of our footings would have to obviously avoid hitting the MTA tunnel. So we're in close collaboration with MTA on that. We cannot build this in-water structure within the Federal Navigation Channel. So we have some limitations as to how far away from the bulkhead line we can construct this structure. And then naturally, Con Edison has a lot of their operations that they're working out of that pier. They have several fuel oil barges, for example, to provide backup fuel for their facility on 14th Street. They have crane barges that they'll utilize to haul equipment across the FDR. And so again, these are just some of the different requirements that we're faced with our design, and why it's important that we get these the best subject matter experts to design a solution that could really provide a great structure for the community, while also working around the various requirements and constraints that we're dealing with. Since we're building this in the water, we also needed to coordinate with DEC, the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which we've already started that process and engaging them just to pick their brains on their requirements to set them out within our RFP. But of course, the greenway itself, since this really is a project for the community, we want to make sure that the community gets to enjoy the structure. So we're providing several amenities like benches, trash receptacles, drinking fountains, just to, again, make sure that it's welcome, but also steers away from that 4-foot pinch point. So on the southern side of this structure, we're tying into East River Park. This is critical for us since this would also be the point of entry for all of our utilities that we require on the greenway structure. Now, the reason why we wanted to also share this update with you for this connecting point is because, again, we know that East Coast Resiliency Team is already in construction in this area. It's close to the public. They are on their own schedule to move forward to give back to the community with the East River Park project. So they will be completed with construction. We're anticipating before we even start construction with our greenway structure. So they will be completing all of the different elements within East River Park. However, they are reserving just the surface elements on the northernmost part of the East River Park, including the basketball court, so that we can utilize that, or the design builder can utilize that for staging, for mooring their ships to go do the work out in the water, but also just to navigate around the connecting point of the greenway structure. And so I wanted to highlight that area will remain closed during our construction. However, we are reopening East River Park after the East Coast Resiliency Team is completed, and that 4-foot wide pinch point will be reopened to the community so that they can enjoy access to the East River Park as well, while we are underway in construction. So it would really be just that highlighted orange area that would remain closed throughout our construction period for our greenway structure. And then we only expect very few intermittent closures of this pinch point when we are working on our in-water structure, just as it relates to actually tying in the structure itself. So it's very minimal closures in that sense. And then on the northern side, we have, of course, Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk. Just for transparency of where we plan on tying in, since we are dealing with ADA requirements, and again, we want to make sure that the cyclists and the pedestrians have easier access onto our new structure. We're tying in to Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk, where there is a clear width of at least 10 feet. Again, we are reliant on our design build teams to confirm where that tying location will be, since they also have to deal with all the different ADA requirements. But that is the requirement that we set up in front of them, so that, again, they would deal with that 10-foot minimum requirement. Again, just wanted to flag again that this path will remain open during our construction after the East River Park project is completed, or the East Coast Resiliency project is completed. So we do want to limit how frequently this location is closed to the community while we're in construction. And then since we have these Con Ed operations, we do expect intermittent closures even after we're done with the construction of the greenway structure in particular, but the 4-foot wide pinch point will remain open at all times. So that's really our update. I did want to also stress that we do have a certain allocation of funding, and so unfortunately we received the request for the additional remediation efforts of Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk. That could not have been absorbed by our project with the funding that we had allocated. And we also could not support any remediation of that 4-foot wide pinch point. But we are bringing this awesome structure to the community. We're really excited by this project, and that's all I have for you all. Just wanted to share an update with the community board. So I'll open the floor for any questions.
Thank you for sharing that update with us. Does anybody want to start off with any questions? Sandy?
I should let them.
Victoria?
But Patrick J. Brown Walk is falling apart. So who do we go to for funding for that? Because it would be such a shame to open it and have it fall on someone.
Yeah, no, that's completely understood. We have flagged the request obviously up the chains. New York City NYC Parks is our sponsor agency. They unfortunately do not own Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk. So the owner of that parcel really should be the ones responsible for any remediation efforts.
Who's that? Who's the owner?
That's a good question. It's New York State DOT.
EOP?
New York State.
New York State
New York
DOT.
State. Yep.
Our understanding was that New York State DOT has control of raised highways, but anything that's on grade is local. Is that not the case here?
No, that is not the case here. We are actually working with New York City DOT to make sure that we're meeting their requirements for all the cyclist requirements and pedestrian paths. And they do not own Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk.
Thank you.
Wait, didn't you just say DOT owned it?
New York State DOT versus New York City. So we're working with New York City DOT. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of issues
So
here.
Parks owns the Stuyvesant Cove Park
No,
and the Easter, who owns
No.
Stuyvesant Cove Park?
that's Economic Development Corporation.
Okay, and then this is owned by the Department of Design and Construction, this Greenway.
It's gonna be owned by NYC Parks.
This is gonna be owned by Parks, and then the East River Park below that is also owned by Parks, or is
Yeah,
that?
so this would be a projection up from there.
Okay, so you have like Parks owns this into State DOT owns Captain Patrick Brown Park into.
You know, the brick walkway, yeah.
Got it.
That is so odd.
Wouldn't it? Sorry. Didn't see.
I was wondering why in the short list teams, there's only one architect. Are the
Oh.
other teams have architects too, or they're just?
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry for not making that clear. We do have, you know, these are just the design leads that were assigned or that were selected by each of the primary design builders. But yes, they all have architects, they all have engineers. They have a full-fledged team to make sure that they're providing the best design solution. But these are just the design leads with the corresponding design builder.
Yeah.
This ownership, the overlaying and the three separate entities and it owning the thing just strikes me as what we call back home a cluster, and I'll leave the word
Yeah.
up for you. Would it not be appropriate for whoever wins that open assembly seat and our state senator and the second district council member to effect some change so that there's one entity that owns the whole thing? And that frankly, that would include the Peter Stuyvesant, the Stuyvesant town.
Yeah.
You know, Stuyvesant Cove.
Stuyvesant Cove, right.
Excuse me. Stuyvesant Cove, because I've seen the thing, I walked that area yesterday, or not yesterday, but about a week ago. And there's a homeless encampment, there's a lot of graffiti further south, and there's graffiti even in the new construction at Stuyvesant Cove, which I pointed out to the office. And you can't manage that area by having it under what, 2-3 different jurisdictions, EDC, New York State New York State DOT, New York City DOT. I mean, let's bundle it, get it together. Would you guys object to that?
I mean, I hear your concerns. Unfortunately, that's sort of out of DDC's jurisdiction. But
Would you, since we're talking about objections, you know, would you have any objection?
Me personally?
No.
I think not the best place to have that question answered, but I do, and I think most of us take your point, Jim. Tanya.
My experience with things like this is, I had it with the stairs to Tudor City Place. we would call DOT,
Mhm.
oh, that's parks. We'd call parks, no,
Yeah.
that's DOT. And this went on for months and months, until I got on the phone to the city council and I said, this has to stop. You guys have to figure this out. And he was able to fix it. So, you know, we may just need to start going further up the chain.
And
Unfortunately.
It's not, it has a lot of difficulty identifying the lines. And who will take control on the waterway.
Yeah.
So,
We've got it further uptown near the restaurant.
Well, I have a question on the update that you gave. I was interested in what kind of resiliency asks are you having of the proposals that will be presented to you? Is the greenway that was done up in the 50s is really nice. It's great. I think a lot of resiliency and thought into climate change was put into it. And I was curious of what you're asking these three shirtless people.
So for us in our requirements, we're really dealing with the requirements of constructing the greenway within the water. The Con Ed operations is really what's driving us with our design solution. But we have a mechanism in our RFP to allow for enhancements where the selected design builder is, or each proposer isn't aware what the other teams are sort of requesting in their proposal. And so
Sure.
part of that, part of our enhancement is to provide elements of resiliency. So if the teams are able to come up with a design solution that is able to incorporate those elements, they're able to do so. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
I'm glad to hear it. I would personally like to encourage selecting a team that prioritizes that. I think it's important as all of the building that we're doing on there goes that direction. But
This project is outboard of the apron for the existing fuel dock, which doesn't appear to have had a substantial rehabilitation, at least in the last 40 or 50 years. And as happened when Con Ed closed the power plant for the waterside redevelopment, and we discovered that fuel dock that they had for there was in terrible shape and had to be rehabilitated before it became part of the greenway. I have a concern that if you put this outboard structure here before that has been taken care of, in other words, if it has to be substantial remediation done to rebuild that fuel dock because marine borers have undermined it. Right now, it'd be easy to bring in a barge to perform those repairs, but once you put this outboard bridge, it would make it exceedingly difficult. Has that been the condition of that apron been assessed beyond that they can't support a flyover bridge?
The flyover bridge, again, part of it was about the stability of the Con Edison pier, but also all the footings would land within the FDR as well. So there was just that concern from that perspective. To answer your question specifically, Con Ed has not informed us of any planned work along that pier. They are actually our partners in this. We've been having frequent conversations with Con Edison about this project to make sure that we're not interrupting their operations, because obviously this facility serves most of Manhattan at this point. But they have not flagged any anticipated work on that pier at all.
I think we should come up with some sort of a mechanism with respect to the park. If that's how they would access for rehabilitation versus barges, which would probably be a lot cheaper for them if they'd anticipate. Maybe they're going to say no to this because somebody will wake up and say, oh, we need to have access to and getting barges for anything more than fuel outboard. And speaking of the outboard fuel barge, how is that affecting your discussion with Coast Guard and New York City Ferry concerning navigation? You know, it's a fairly swift moving part of the river around that bend there, and so the fuel barge will probably affect the navigation. Can you give us any kind of information on that?
No, that's actually a really great question. To our knowledge, the requirements for this structure is that the actual greenway structure can't land within the federal navigation channel. We've outlined the different dimensions of the fuel oil barge, for example, the crane barge. And we're in constant conversations with the US Coast Guard to make sure that we're not impacting anything in terms of impeding into the navigation channel. So those conversations are ongoing. From our preliminary conversations, there has been no red flags to date. But we'll continue to have those conversations as the design develops to make sure that we're doing what's right here. But again,
And I mentioned the New York City Ferry, would this change their approach and departure from the Stuyvesant Cove Park barge?
I'll be honest, we haven't spoken with the ferries yet, but that's a good flag. We'll definitely reach out to them and we'll connect and see what type of impact it would have. That's a great point.
Thank you. Al, did you have a question?
Sure. I'll preface my question by saying, Andrew, that I currently work at EDC, and I know that this is not an EDC asset, but given the fact that EDC is involved in projects to the north and south of here, I think it's important that I disclose this. But I guess my question kind of piggybacks off of Larry's. You mentioned earlier that you need to consult with DEC and Army Corps. What kind of consultations are you seeking to get out of that? Are you seeking any kind of state or Army actions that would require this project to proceed? Or is it just more due diligence in apprising them of simply like, this is what we're doing?
We engage them just for informing them about this project, but also to gauge from them specific requirements that we should set forth for our design build team. So we've incorporated their requirement into the RFP. So really that was the exercise behind meeting with them, but our design builder would be responsible for all the different permitting process with respective stakeholders.
Okay. And if you could just go back to the timeline again real quick. Because you include dates on this slide that we just saw, but you don't have dates on this slide previously that you showed here. So when do you, if you go back one more?
Yep.
So what is the timeline here?
Right.
When do you anticipate phase 1 beginning and phase 2 ending?
Right, so that is actually, so phase 1 beginning is our NTP, so that's quarter 3 of 2026, so next year. Phase 1 completing is about, we're approximating 1 year after that, so quarter 3 2027. And then phase 2 again captures the construction component, which we're anticipating in quarter 1 of 2028. And then phase 2 completion would be quarter 3 of 2030.
So substantial completion, quarter 3 2030.
Exactly.
So about 5 years from now.
Correct, yep.
Okay, great.
Daniel?
I want to go back to the closures that you talked about. I'm kind of curious if you could just, I want to make sure that I've got the timelines right, essentially. So, because I don't know exactly when the East Side Coastal Resiliency Park is supposed to open, but they open, basketball courts are open. And then at some point, quarter 1 2028, we start the Greenway and we close those basketball courts. That's how this is working, or the basketball courts never start until the Greenway is done?
Correct. So we're going to absorb the basketball courts as part of our project. So essentially the final surface elements, they'll do everything underground, all the utility connections and what have you. They'll complete all of that. But we'll do the final surface element, including the basketball court, the spray showers, the drinking fountain in this northern part of the East River Park. Just so that we can utilize that for staging, for our trailers, for, again, access to our boats to go out into the water. So that section would remain closed throughout the end of our construction.
And during the whole next 5 or 6 years until it's done, the pinch point is still open and can go through this construction to the rest of the park? That's.
Right, so you see the gray path here, right at the top, that would be open, which is to the right, page right of this is the 4-foot pinch point. So they would be able, they're going to complete that section, that'll be remaining open for the community, and we'll just have this orange section here that would remain closed for our staging.
Okay, then I wanted to ask a follow-up question to what Maya asked about the coastal resiliency. You mentioned that the candidates, the 3 candidates that you're looking at sort of have the ability or can include like resiliency and the coastal impact in their proposals. And I'm curious about how that impacts your evaluation. Maybe you talked about it a little bit, but your rubric for how you select them, I don't know how much you can get into that, if that's like a lot or whatever, but how much are you valuing when a candidate's proposal is, prioritizes resiliency and the impacts of flooding or climate change?
Yeah, I mean, there is a rating system, and honestly, we have a full-fledged system in place in terms of the evaluation. There's a rubric that they need to follow that the design build teams are aware of. But the resiliency component, again, it is listed within our requirements. What we're looking for is throughout this whole process is what do we feel based off of the requirements that we set out is the best solution? What is the best look and feel? What is the best sort of design, the conceptual design that they move forward with for this community and for this project? And again, I touched a little bit about enhancements. It's just a list of extra items that we don't like, that we would hope that the design build teams can incorporate into their project. So naturally, if they're able to absorb some of these enhancements, it benefits them greatly
Right.
for selection.
So in this case, resiliency is sort of viewed as an enhancement.
We have several requirements for resiliency, such as designing to the sea level rise in the year 2100, for example, specific drainage requirements that were incorporated into the structure itself. So we already have resiliency elements, but the enhancements captures more of the landscape requirements, for example. We want this to be an actual greenway that speaks to the community. And so that's really one of the priority enhancements that we've listed.
Great. I'll just echo what Maya said earlier, that I think it's an important thing to consider, especially considering that north and south of it are resiliency projects to make sure that that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. Understood.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I want to return to the Patrick J. Brown Walk. That is a reconstructed bulkhead with fill behind it, correct? That supports not only the walk, but the FDR Drive off-ramp and the
Correct.
roadway itself?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and there are pilings that are existing there, or there aren't any under the wall?
There are piles there, yes.
Okay, now, you're gonna connect in with that, and when you do that physical connection, wherever it's chosen, you may have to close the walk for a period of time to affect that. And obviously, we would like to make sure that work to be done outboard of it as much as possible, to minimize that closure period. But once, yeah, okay, and once that connection has been made, every part of the of the Patrick J. Brown Walk south from that all the way to the pinch point will no longer be used. So, I want to ask you, does this request for, design build include, the, the permanent changeover of that to something different? For example, you could forest it, you could plant it, you could landscape it so that people walking or cycling on the new amenity would have something nice to look at and not just cars going on the highway.
So
And that would be part of resiliency as well.
Sure. So two responses. One regarding the tie-in location, completely understood. We do plan on minimizing that closure. Really, we are treating this as a standalone structure, so all the supports and foundations for our structure themselves would be standalone. Our structure would just abut to the Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk location. Obviously, we would have to amend some of the fencing just to allow for that open access, but completely on the same page in terms of minimizing the closure. Regarding the Captain Patrick J. Brown Walk going south to the 4-foot wide pinch point, that is actually going to remain open as a walkway. We are not permanently closing that. We do, again, I mentioned this probably too briefly, but the greenway structure itself would have intermittent closures during some of the Con Ed operations. And so we need to keep that 4-foot wide pinch point open just to work around those closures. So no, there is no proposed work in that area. But it would remain open as it is, or as it will be once the East Coast Resiliency projects are completed.
Okay, I'll just point out that there is some landscaping within that area that has no irrigation that dies off.
Well, I think that's not purview to their project, and that's something we can take up
Okay.
in a new agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Wonderful. Thank you for your update and presentation. We're gonna go ahead and move forward to the discussion of faith-based affordable housing, which is the New York State Senate bill that is being in committee right now. I think Brendan will pull it up for us on the screen. But in general, this month, we just wanted to talk about what the community and how the committee is feeling and get a sense on that before we move forward on specific resolutions that we might want to put forward in different capacities, but Gabe, the chair, who's not here with us today, wanted us to have more of an open discussion.
This is actually something that I have been following for a long time. I even attended one of the hearings on this faith-based housing, and you know, I feel very passionate about the fact that so many things are colored with the affordable housing in order to cover all kinds of misdeeds and just overall greed that happens in this city. And I'm all for housing, but I'm absolutely not for doing away with environmental, zoning, or landmark reviews. This bill basically gives them a blank check. You could do whatever you want with your property. And, you know, they're trying in all kinds of ways to eliminate the input from the community, be it the charter commission or the faith-based housing, or, you know, there's a million ways that they're trying to get the community away from the process so that they can have a free hand. And I personally think this is probably, I mean, I was upset about the casino. I actually think this is even worse, to be honest with you. I think this is, and I've been reading a lot about it. It's not just myself that's against it. There's a lot of members of not only the community here in the city, but county, other counties, and landmarks is also, I'm in favor of it. It just gives them blank check.
Who introduced this bill?
In the
Bernardo.
Senate.
In principle.
Andrew Bernardus.
Just pull out.
And it
What's the
didn't
question?
and it didn't pass in twenty
The
twenty-five.
question
Well,
is,
it-
who is
I
the
don't-
sponsor for
I don't
that?
Yeah,
think
good
this is-
artist.
Okay, cause I don't think it affects New York. I haven't read the bill, Brendan, if you scroll up, it says.
I think it does affect New
It
York.
does
I
affect
think
New York.
There's
Where?
specific provisions for,
For town, for cities and towns with more than a
More
million.
than a
and then
million.
there's a specific provision for New York City as well for the percentage versus the AM.
They don't need to provide as much.
Yes.
But cities and towns with fewer than a million do.
Yeah, I mean,
Do what? I'm sorry?
They have to set
Fewer
aside
than 1 million.
20% of units is affordable. So what's the provision for New York? Or
It's
or rather for
specific-
cities and towns with more than a million
Well,
people?
there's two. There's under, and then
There.
there's more than, and then there's New York City specifically.
Right, but what is?
New York City is slightly lower than the ones that would be over a million. I believe it was something like 20.
And 80% would be luxury housing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, these are tax exempt entities.
This was something that I wanted to ask the committee specifically, if we're gonna already jump into it, is how they feel about the AMI cap. What the percentage is, because obviously in our district, if you do like a 60% AMI, it means something very different than if you're doing that percentage in Coney Island, but as we were just talking about, it's across New York City. So maybe we want to talk about that, and also just the percentage of units. I personally think they're very low.
Yeah.
If we were going to be supportive of this, I think that's really low. I personally am not supportive of this largely, but I'm happy to hear what other people have to
I don't know
say.
anything about this bill. I mean, no, like honestly, I can't form an opinion.
We
without
can-
reading with the legislature.
Take the time to read about it. What basically they're trying to do is that the property that belongs to faith-based entities,
Mhm.
tax exempt entities, basically. It could be churches, synagogues, temples, it could be anything.
Right.
That is, you know, a tax exempt religious entity, the properties that they own, they will have free reign to sell it without having to go through a zoning process, without a ULURP process, without an environmental impact study.
To sell their development rights.
Yeah, and to sell the
Okay.
development rights. And
Alright.
then, you know, landmarks is against it, obviously, because a lot of these churches and such are landmarked. You know, and it's just a free, you know, I want affordable housing, but I find that there's a myriad of misdeeds that are covered with this affordable housing. We just went through this whole process with the casino. All of a sudden at the 11th, well, not the 11th hour, it's like the 2 minutes before midnight, they come up and say, oh, we're gonna give you 100% affordable housing. Yeah, but you're putting a casino there, you know, so it's just, I think that when we need affordable housing, but we need affordable housing that makes sense. And, you know, at some point, I'm gonna talk about other options for affordable housing. This is not the moment. But quite honestly, I listened to them. I went to the hearing and I was just absolutely appalled.
Hmm.
And, I mean, am I wrong? There's just no.
I think there's other
control.
concern as well about religious institutions being landlords. And there's like certain percentages of like the 20% or whatever, but then there's like no more than 35%, I believe, that can be used as religious or educational spaces. And so I
Sure.
think there's a lot of questions about that too, about who's the landlord, like what kind of separations are we expecting and such and such.
So they would, the institution would sell to developer or have a developer build on their behalf and they would maintain ownership as a landlord?
No, they would sell to the.
I understood.
So how
Yeah,
is-
the
They
interest.
would still
Lease the
be,
land.
yeah, they would,
Yeah,
But then how is a religious organization the landlord then?
well,
Yeah.
they're not, so they're still like in the stewardship of. And so there's concerns about like influencing, like if we're all on this property that's owned by the church, like the influence of the church might have somebody who's like, I need an affordable home. And that kind of conflict that might arise about being like, oh, we can be here because we'll lease to you because you come to our Sunday service or something.
Well, what happens to the tax exemption?
I mean, I think there's a lot of
Yeah, if they,
issues here.
if they're selling it outright, that's
I don't
no
think
longer
that's just what
taxed.
they're doing.
Yeah.
That was my reading.
And the city club, is that
The city club is where I heard it, yeah.
I just listened to it before.
Oh, I was
These are
listening to the
just
whole thing.
TDRs.
To refresh myself.
Yeah.
And they assume that that the faith-based organization will develop it. And there's actually a thing in it that they can't, it has to be property that's owned by the faith-based group now, when the bill passes, so that they can't do some kind of with development.
It says it in the bill. It says the property must be solely owned by the religious organization who will typically partner with a developer to build the affordable housing via a sale or long-term ground
Yeah.
lease of the property.
Right.
Or long-term ground lease of the property.
Right,
So that.
But
the
also via
religious
sale.
institution- Yeah, so they could remain.
so they'd lose the tax exemption if they sell it.
Exemption. Think
Okay.
about it.
Yeah,
They're selling property and they're partnering with a developer.
Mhm.
And if you're not selling the property and you have a land lease, they get income from that land lease. Usually the land leases are 100 years long,
99.
or
Yeah.
99,
Is there a
whatever.
position in
like
this
the
bill?
Chrysler
So,
building.
you know, I don't know who came up with this bill.
Why do it just for-
Who came up with this bill?
An artist. It was an artist.
And you
In
know,
Brooklyn.
and this was, I think this was not even passed in the
What committee was it
legislature this
introduced
past
in?
year.
Which committee did?
Housing, construction and community development.
Okay.
And it's only one sponsor, right? Or there are more
No.
sponsors?
There are
No,
four
there's-
co-sponsors.
there's up to,
Yeah,
Or
there
a
are
few.
several co-sponsors.
Our senator actually does.
including Brad Oilman, and
There are actually quite a few.
Yeah, there are many.
Our senators,
one of ours,
Much of the New York.
and Kavanaugh. Well, Kavanaugh's not ours anymore.
Oh, Kristen is a
Yeah,
co-sponsor.
Kristen.
so it is important if we have opinions that we let them know.
I'm gonna see her on the third.
Measure.
I'll just raise one more point on this. I feel strongly about this one because just recently you may have seen the news that 350 Park Avenue, they're like a massive development happening there. Developer having paid $150 million to buy air rights from St. Bart's on Park and St. Patrick's on Fifth. This is, they could have done this in like 10 years ago, but now they can. Park City of Gifts allows to borrow, buy air rights from even not just same block, across the street, across the avenue. $150 million is great revenue for these churches. Go on them selling the air rights. It's a shame that that's not used for affordable housing. That developer has no requirement. The requirement is actually quite low. I don't know the exact number, but this is like a super tall structure that's behemoth on Park.
That's good.
350 Park Avenue, so it's between 51st and 2nd.
The same thing happened on 61st between Madison and Park. That church on the corner of 61st and Park sold the air rights. And then in the middle of the block between Madison and Park, they built this monstrosity.
Yeah,
And I saw it built, it was built with like prefab. The whole thing would come in and they put it in like a Lego.
Right.
And they have literally a Park Avenue address, but they're on 61st Street.
Yeah.
So the air rights have been around for a long time. But this is not just air rights, this is actual physical property.
right, yeah, so I bring it up to say, I think we should definitely ask our, Christine Gonzalez, our representative, and I think we should push more aggressively, say, it's already like tax-exempt organizations, many of them do great work, but there are questions about how this would be structured.
Yeah.
Claire.
All right, I strongly agree with Majed and Tanya, and I think their analysis is spot on. So I won't add anything to that.
Why limit it to faith institutions? Why not all nonprofits? And second, I don't like the aspect of it, as I mentioned in my email. I don't like the aspect where you are, if you're selling property, you are compelled to attend this training. You are required to attend this training. I don't think you can require people after the fact to do anything prior to selling property that's not already extant. It just seems to me to be an additional burden on a property owner of any type that you just can't impose.
That's if they're selling, but they're leasing, then do you think it makes sense?
Doing anything.
But it says when a religious organization is selling or leasing, they must approve the.
Yeah, well, they have to attend
they're
they have
listing
to
it.
attend the training.
Yeah,
Yeah. How do you force somebody to attend training?
Yeah.
And there was no prior
What's the
requirement to
point
do
of the
that.
training?
so a division.
Just to
and
make you
husband-
know, I guess, just to make you aware of how all this works prior to selling, so that you don't go do like they did with St. Bart's and St. Patrick's. In other words, I could see incentivizing it. You know, you can incentivize it till the cows come home. I don't see how you can compel it as a matter of law to tell people, you know, you have to sit through our training.
That's the least of my concerns.
Sandy?
Well,
I do think we should probably all take a look at the city club. And we probably need someone, if our senator supports this, we need someone to come in on.
Yeah.
And we do need, I think everybody needs to look very carefully at, I mean, the city club basically is against it. They had a developer who was a phase developer, explain why it would be good for their, she worked with a group of nuns, but, yeah, we need more information than we can.
Yeah, what I got from that city club, hearing was, it wasn't very, popular.
The majority of the people.
The majority of people, well, and also landmarks, I have, I printed out some stuff, landmarks is against.
that's on video.
It's on video.
Yeah.
I thought it was sent out to everybody because we did talk about this.
So is it generally the sense of the committee that we're against it as well, and we're just looking to
I think,
flesh out the rationale?
The way it is structured is just untenable, and I think that there's a lot of questions here that need to be answered, there's a lot of loose ends, and there's a lot of, green lights for these people to just basically run amok.
so I think after listening to everybody, to moving this forward for future months, I wrote down a lot of notes about what people said about what they didn't like, or that they had issues with, or they wanted more information on, but I would also ask Brendan to help me send out the link to the Senate bill to everyone on the committee.
Yes.
And we'll do that, and I think to answer your question, people who have read into it are not in favor, but I also want to give a chance to people who haven't been super read in, before we come to consensus of what the committee is doing.
Is housing and homeless weighed in on it at all?
We have not, but we certainly can in our November meeting.
I mean, it
Just,
sounds like we should. have some
FYI,
some
Rockland
remarks as well.
County and Long Island towns and villages have all
Opposed.
against it.
But for different reasons.
For different reasons. For different reasons,
I was
but
gonna
it's,
say, Long Island's a little bit different than Manhattan.
I get it, but just so you know, this is a legislation that is just fraught with.
And we
Thank you.
will curiously continue to discuss it and hopefully pass some resolutions. I will also ask Brendan to help us talk to our regional senators to see if we can get someone to come in and like help explain why they were co-sponsoring.
And then
Yeah,
check
particularly Senator Gonzalez, because I don't see our other senator, Senator Krueger, listed as a co-sponsor, but
Was this
One of
also
them is.
was it introduced in the assembly?
Yeah, and it didn't pass.
Well, okay,
Their bills are both passed.
so the assembly and the.
Yeah, I think it has like a
There's an
tracker at the
assembly-
top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's an assembly.
But yeah, they both have to introduce it.
yeah, and then they have like a cute little tracker graphic at the top of where it is. There we go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and see if I can find out whether any of our assemblymen, I see Boris listed as a co-sponsor.
Right.
Mom Donnie.
Donnie.
Mom Donnie.
Sarah?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm against it then.
Fair to say that we want to enforce that if this passed, we want to make sure that the affordable housing is built. So we can use. that
Yeah, I think
influence
it's
to-
something that we can discuss further, if we do end up moving in a direction of like, say, supporting this with like provisions or caveats, that is something that we can also talk about, is like upping the percentage or lowering the AMI and those kinds of things. There's a lot of
Yeah, you know,
options.
that's kind of a guarantee,
Yeah,
you know, maybe we can, give that.
yeah, I think there's a lot of options in our toolbox here as a committee that we can pursue, but I'm glad that we opened the discussion.
Yeah.
To whet everyone's palate on this, we will be discussing it for a little bit. Thanks. Yes, Brendan.
So I'm gonna send the resolution.
Brendan will send around the
Yeah,
link to the
I'm
committee.
curious to find out
We
what the,
listen to them.
what the religious institutions think about this as well.
The money and then. Oh.
Mm.
No, I know, but how do they feel about it?
Yeah, but they don't know, how do they make money?
It makes money, but you know, perhaps you may want to make more money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More money.
Yeah.
Brendan.
So-
So since I see that Boras is a co-sponsor on the assembly side,
Mhm.
would you like me to maybe reach out to both Boras's office and
Yes,
Gonzalez's
please.
office?
Yes, I think we can ask both of them and hopefully one, if not both.
What about Hoyleman? He's usually,
Does not overlap with our district anymore.
I think it also makes sense to ask the representatives that haven't co-sponsored to come in also, give their opinion. Cause Boris isn't the only assembly member that represents this community district,
We
right?
can talk offline about.
Yeah, we can talk offline, but definitely the ones who are co-sponsors.
The city club video can also go around. I don't know if it
Yeah.
already did, but I don't know if I saw it.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've received.
yes, I'll help you find it if you.
Got a lot to send out, Brendan. A lot of links.
I know you're writing down your notes, Brendan, but for the committee, the next, we will discuss our budget request, and this is very important. We need to have this done today, as my understanding. And there are 4 we currently have that escape my memory in the order which they are presented, so I will wait for Brendan.
There we go.
There we
Let me
go.
see if I can zoom in a little bit because
I do think one of them is like a co-request with parks, but there are 4 that we are on. So the first one, New Park and Community District 6.
Can
I-
you read it?
Yeah, if you can pull up the description.
This is a capital
This
request.
blurb. So as people are reading, Gabe and I did discuss offline. We think that in general, we should keep this on because we are continuing to talk about the water club site, and other parks that we want. I mean, there's the potential for Larry's Urban Forest on Captain Patrick J. Brown. So I think we should keep it, but obviously I want to hear what you
no,
guys
actually,
say.
based upon what the representative from, what was
DDC.
DDC said, I'm only talking about a small number of plantings.
I know, I shouldn't have made a joke, but I was making it. Anybody else have anything to say?
And I think your discussion about this is that, we have to change it because it's not, so I think these are arguments.
Yes, but I think in general, our idea was to still keep this, but we do have to update some of these things in here.
Okay.
And I think it was going to go to continued support versus being.
Yes. Yes, my apologies for not making that clear.
So this is going to continued support.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me- First of all, I'm gonna eliminate the rank and I'll change it to NA because continued support is not rank.
Yes.
We don't ask for specific.
And so you can change.
We just ask for capital requests.
Yeah, this is.
We can change it now?
Whether they support.
Yeah, I mean, it can be changed now.
This has to be done before when specifically, I forget.
So might as well.
Well, the budget
Okay.
meeting is tomorrow.
That's why I was like, I know it's
Yeah,
this.
city.
I guess there is only one day left in September.
Right now.
Well, Not necessarily.
Writing is never.
It depends on.
That's.
No, just eliminate the parking.
Just
Or
eliminate
parking.
the
Fall under the jurisdiction.
Just eliminate the word parking, that's
It's a
it.
part of, since that we.
Yeah.
agree, we support.
Misuse.
There's a whole. slew of
It's currently
responses
misused,
that they
right?
can have.
Or underused.
All those
Under
that utilize, yeah.
Because we don't know how
It's
much
empty.
these things cost, we just have to these.
Yeah,
tests and
I mean, they're-
to get their reaction.
all underused.
So 11,000, the property is currently underutilized.
We
Eliminate parking.
use them to help guide future budget. requests. And resolutions. And resolutions will sometimes need to call me. Try to.
That's the, water club.
We'll pepper it
Oh,
throughout
waterfront, okay.
conversations like the entire year and say, we support this in the past.
Not the,
Fiscal year. So this is fiscal year 27. This is July 1st.
I think Alport was already in there.
So.
We don't have to say that.
No, we're reviewing it now to be submitted
I mean, the health was.
for the next budget.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
We
I
just wanna
think
make
that
parts in
the
this
community
underutilized.
board has to. submit
Yes, I think,
December.
we can take that out and then if this is continued support for
Small
her.
piece.
So then how should this
And then we
be
vote.
worded, or are we going to?
Which is, I guess, what they were what I decided.
Doing space at 31st Street.
And then the board.
Property is currently underutilized, and 40% report the rest of the parking.
So starting at
With all
40,000 square
requests
foot.
for the interview. Yes.
Well, then it'd be one.
I think we should just say there,
I
yeah, what
definitely got like
excise
80% of that.
was suggested, and then we'd have to take out the two. We can just say prime.
Well, there is a prime.
There
I'll
are,
just take out two.
I think there are prime city-owned waterfront spaces.
And then take out this 11,000 foot.
No, the other way, I believe, right?
The
The 40,000,
40,000.
yeah.
Why are we taking that one out?
After 40,000, Brendan, where it says 40,000
Yes,
square
yes,
feet.
yes.
Okay.
And what's the origin of a blah, 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 killing them?
Why are we taking that one out? Does that mean just?
We're gonna bifurcate the helicopter, the heliport issue. Sorry, Jen. From the continuing of waterfront park. Cause I think the heliport issue has developed into something
That's better.
on its own.
Yeah, so
That's,
this is.
that's much better.
And then maybe take out there is also the approximate,
Yeah.
just to merge.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Brenda.
Perfect.
Does that read?
And a.
Group writings, it says.
David wasn't so bad this time.
Who says turn it that slow?
I have a question, sorry, no question, Chair. But generally about these budget requests, where do they go?
So that's a great question. So my understanding is that the importance of these budget requests have upgraded in a way. We used to do, I forget the name of the 50 something booklets that we reviewed recently. But these are our priorities basically is
Yeah.
what it is, instead of like creating all these like 5-year plans. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
But it goes to the city,
Yes.
the city agency, our
But this
fellow
is-
agencies, and we say, we want this part.
So this goes to Parks, and then
Yes.
Park says,
Park says what they say.
Right.
and what do they say typically?
Well, we have a
It depends
conversation.
on the year, so if you, so. Many members to know, if you,
Yeah.
like, in these entries that are on the budget request air table,
I don't-
there's this
I don't
agency
think that's-
response section.
Yeah.
And you see
Sound like a good idea.
responses, in some cases going back several years. So,
Like, they say we should remove the request because they're working with the EDC to transform it, which they did, and they have.
So, and that means we should remove the request.
Well, we're moving into a section.
The helicopter.
also, I should add that there were a bunch of budget requests this past year where city agencies said remove the request, so. I would take the remove request piece with a grain of salt.
Yes, and if I remember from last year, largely. We did not feel comfortable as a committee of removing things until we saw it mostly, if not fully completed. I presume that'll be the same sentiment this year, which is fine.
The squeaky
But we-
wheel gets the oil. Just
Sure.
keep at it.
But yes, this is like how we explain our priorities
Thank you.
Yeah,
to the city.
And sometimes these things do happen, like they
Yeah.
get funded.
yeah. Well, sometimes
It could take years.
sometimes they say
Yeah.
funded and then nothing
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
after that too. So you kind of have to appoint a champion to follow it through. Just directly address it. Find out what's going on with it. If they say something's funded and, 18 months or a year later, nothing's happened. Somebody needs to write some.
Some strongly worded resolutions.
Strongly worded letters.
Are we ready to go to the next request?
I think so.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this one. We,
So let me. Okay, so, this one.
yeah,
The flood risk.
yeah, I guess
sorry.
because we changed the other one that it
Yes.
reorganized itself. Yeah, so this one, we recently met with Department of City Planning and Environmental Protection. Gabe mentioned that he would be fine taking this off. In my opinion, I would kind of like to see things on until we see more, specific study funding for our area. They have been doing study funding or funding for studies of other areas in the city. But I would like open to other people's opinions.
This, as I recollect, came up as a consequence of one of our interns. A few years ago, right? Is that, you remember?
Fine, fine.
Yeah, planning fellow.
This. So, again, this is sort of procedural, but this is a request for 27, so that means that we've included a request like this for 26 and in previous years.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So then a question I could ask that makes sense is what they say to this request last time. Yeah.
As I said, we got a lot of removed requests.
I have a question. Do we choose which agency these are sent to? Cause we don't choose which agency? So maybe there's a way in which we can rephrase this so that it would be sent to a different agency.
Is that chosen by the budget committee or by the agencies themselves?
Agency.
Thanks, the agency themselves.
I think we said DEP, oh, yeah. And,
So, like, oftentimes these things are kind of chosen for us, and that with most budget requests, there's only like one agency who realistically can handle such a budget request, so. For example, if they're like, I know this isn't land use, but transportation, but like there's a request for like traffic size around the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Like only the Department of Transportation can realistically do
Sure.
that,
So
so.
if we're asking for
Mhm.
coastal resiliency on the East River, as we learned, that could be 3 different.
Yeah, those resolutions on the East River is the exception to that.
Yes.
Alas.
Yeah, but like this one, we should take the study that the fellow did and send it in response, since they're asking for more information. He gave us the information.
They also say they're happy to set up a meeting with, all those groups. Do we have them set up that meeting, or is that something that we should?
You know what I'm saying?
Brendan, do you know?
well, again, I think to your point, that's exactly the thing. If we hadn't done it over the year, we're not that interested. It tends to be the idea comes out of it. So if we want to leave it on, we really need to make it part of the agenda for the committee. And yes, bring up that we've had, but I think what they're looking for is they want to know the parameters of the study, what exactly we're looking for, they just want some more information. And I'm not sure the planning fellow has exactly that.
Well, he was the one that suggested going up to, what was it, 40? Beyond the coastal resiliency study area. We have his records, don't we?
Yes.
It was a couple of years, like probably 3 years ago,
I
I
think it
guess.
was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
but
do
why
you
don't
think
we,
it says? It said-
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
so who's gonna ride that? Who's gonna take that home?
The thrust of this is that the protection is discontinuous, which is problem for our whole district. It's like the Dutch boy who took his finger out of the dike and just flooded.
It's a children's story.
The study is urgently
Children's story.
required to ensure this area can maintain operations during coastal storms, so.
So as a committee, would we like to continue this and see this
I would-
come
I
up
would,
as an agenda item? I do think
I
this
think we should
goes.
continue it until we're safe, until we're confident. we're safe.
Yeah, I would put it,
But if we're going to continue it you know, as we were discussing earlier, we have to have someone, you know, come
Champion.
here.
you need somebody to quarterback it.
Yeah.
Well, I think with the new direction that we're pushing the committee and everything, this is certainly a priority for us and we can get it on the agenda. So we'll keep this. What else is Jason?
I have one more procedural question, but you can finish your thought. When in the process do they get back to us? Or like, we submit this December or?
No, we submit it
late September?
tomorrow.
Okay, September. Why did I say December?
Budget submitted.
It's
Submitted
to the city in December. It's submitted to the city in December.
Brendan will
Y'all
have a
have
better
to-
answer
so-
for you.
Like, we're submitting this to the budget committee in advance of their meeting tomorrow. Then assuming that the list of budget requests pass their committee and then passes full board in October, we submit all of our budget requests by the end of October. And then the city gets back to us with their preliminary responses, usually early the next year. And then their final responses come out closer to, like, I wanna say like April or May, if I remember correctly. So there are preliminary responses from the city and then there are like final responses a
Yeah.
little bit later.
And I guess part of the reason I asked that question is because I'm wondering like, how long after they said like, what the heck kind of study are you talking about? Or do we have enough time to like really, you know, arrange that meeting or get back to them? And I guess if it was May, it's not actually that much time because then immediately we went to some break.
There's a chart of the budget process in the city.
But the heart of the question is
I
like,
think he's asking why haven't we put this? on
yeah,
the
like, can we put together this meeting still? Like, I don't know, it feels like it's late to do it if we're submitting our budget tomorrow, but.
Well, like, couldn't we just scrap this as a budget item entirely? Bring city planning in and then vote as a committee to pass a resolution
Yeah.
that would ask for such a study.
This is, Gabe was suggesting that we do take this off because when we met with DEP and DCP, they were already conducting leg studies and they
Okay.
seem very open to what we have. And he is planning on emailing them to see what kind of resolution they would like us to write in support. So
Okay.
there is wheels on the back end moving.
Mhm.
It just, do we want to keep some kind of coastal resiliency as a budget item? Because if we take this off, I don't believe there are any other ones, or do we want to just completely pursue via resolution?
I would say if we're going to pursue via resolution and it's going to eventually, you know, involve something that is budget, I kind of feel like we shouldn't take it off. Like, we might as well include it on there. And if they're gonna say, take it off, we told you to take it off last year, like, so what?
Well, we could
We're
also,
gonna pass a resolution and.
we could also do both.
Yeah.
Like, we could pass a resolution and keep this.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm
So
for that.
I think that's the best course of
No, it
action.
doesn't hurt to leave it in there.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Brendan?
It's-
Yeah, one thing for the committee to keep in mind though is there have been times when there have been resolutions on budget requests like things and that sometimes receives pushback
In the full board, yes, this is
So-
true.
But regardless of that, there is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I would encourage the committee to, you know, not just pursue this when talking about budget requests, but to pursue it at other times as well, so.
Well, you know, when we have a specific kind of a project that we could get behind and do a resolution on, that's a different approach than just having an overall resolution that repeats what this says.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with. I like the idea of keeping it as a budget request, however, we do have specifics in this, and I would like us to pursue resolutions that have very specific needs, and I'm worried that our resolution may not be germane to the specific request in this budget item. If we, Brendan, if we do not keep this, or let's say we do keep this, we can't edit it largely, because then that won't be fair for them to like react to it, correct?
You said it again?
Like if we keep this, but we decide to change the street numbers or something, like that's not doable.
No, I can be done.
Okay.
This is a living, this is a
You said
living
like 2
document.
months from now.
This is a living
Yeah,
document.
months from now, but it'll just be for the following year's set of
Okay.
budget request. So
Okay,
it can be done anytime. It's just a question of whether it'll be done in time for the budget requests that need to be submitted to the city at the end of October.
So anything that we would change following your submission would be
just be
for
for-
fiscal year 28.
Correct.
okay.
You can change it anytime. It's just a question of.
So my suggestion for the committee to consider then is we keep this. We will see this as an agenda item. We will see like things as an agenda item as we continue to talk to DCP and relevant agencies. And then we edit it as
As neat.
needed.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Sounds like general consensus.
Yeah.
Good job.
That was awesome.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the resolution? I was getting something freaking.
We're going to keep it.
We're keeping it and we are going to pass a resolution and we are going to edit this request in the future as we see appropriate.
Okay.
for
I'm
future
happy to
fiscal
see
years.
coastal resiliency and flood risk maintain a priority.
I just sent a whole thing on budget, the community board budget requests. So if anybody else would like it, let me know.
Or maybe you can send it to Brendan.
I'll send it to, why don't I do
He's
that?
got a package already building for us.
I'll send it to Brendan.
So shall I move to the next?
Yes,
request?
please.
Sure.
All right.
This one was, I think this and the next one were ones that Gabe and I had generally thought about just keeping because we still wanted to see work progress on this before we were comfortable with moving it off. As I mentioned before, the general sentiment from last year was to keep things until we see completion, basically, but obviously,
No, we
Let
had,
me know your
we had an
thoughts.
agenda item today on part of this.
yeah. I also personally like to see how they are going to connect the two greenways further up near where I live and what they're going to do with the falling apart greenway near Beekman Place.
So what was the response to this?
The response to this one. Contact the agency, which is another response we got.
And it's very much fun.
Can you scroll up to the actual request?
Also, for the committee to know and for the members of the public that this is accessible on the website, right?
Yep, it's accessible on the website under quick links. Near the top of our website.
Are there any questions or opposition to keeping this as a budget item?
What are the next steps then for contacting the agency and following up on it?
It would be
How does that
likely,
work, I guess?
well, a lot of their focus is down here in our part of the district, and they're not super focused up here right now, and so we probably wouldn't have any real plans or proposals brought to us, but it is something that we can continue to ask them, right?
And of course, there's that key part by the UN,
Yeah,
which
that
is
is
the,
contentious.
the biggest challenge, shall we say,
Kind of
to
words in mine.
having a continuous Esplanade.
Yeah,
I have one question actually. 54th to 56th Street, it says on there, but doesn't that like new part of the park that they put in go all the way down to 53rd, or am I?
No, 54th Street's where it begins.
Yeah, there's like this other older Esplanade that's like actually at grade with the water.
Oh, yeah.
That entrance is on 51st.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
54th because this.
Yeah.
Which,
How come that's not, maybe this is irrelevant to the conversation, I'll ask that after.
We can move to the last one, please.
So,
Oh,
isn't that, to your point, shouldn't that come out of 54th and 50th? There's not a gap there.
I didn't think there was. I thought it went all the way down to 53rd.
Yeah, because now there is the completed,
And then the gap is between the part at 51st to 53rd, right?
So
this part,
So I think maybe the way this is written here is misleading because the area that you're talking about that needs the reconstruction is this area that's described there, but it's discontinuous from the off
Like Sutton Place.
shore. It's discontinuous and not connected to the offshore esplanade. Maybe it's just poorly described.
Brendan, can you click it so I can read
Yeah,
the line?
we
of
need
it?
some
Thank you.
comments there.
Cause the East River Esplanade goes until like 53rd. That's where you can get on.
There's
And
a
then,
little park there,
yeah, then there's that like 51st bridge that goes over the FDR and that goes on to
It's
like
completely separate.
right under. and
Yeah,
doesn't-
this doesn't
stupid.
adequately
But
describe
I don't
that.
want to connect.
I think it's attempting to describe that, but it doesn't.
Okay, so would we instead like to take out the specific street numbers that we see here? Because
Maybe that
these,
solves, yeah.
Yeah.
That could solve it.
Significant, all he's doing is laying out the gaps that exist, though. I think you fix it with a couple of commas.
but these aren't gaps, so.
Yeah,
I don't think this is accurate.
I don't think there's a
The new
gap
bridge
between 54th and 56th.
50.
I would take this out. I think part of what they were trying to describe was the backyards along the Sutton Place.
Yeah,
No,
Something.
there used to be a gap and
Yeah.
nobody's edited it since then.
I
Yeah.
think,
yeah, I was gonna,
here's my suggestion, we'll take out the gaps, I will personally look at where the gaps are specifically and have it before the budget committee tomorrow.
But there's definitely a gap
Or
between
no.
41st and 51st.
No doubt about that one.
That one for sure,
Okay, well, I will find out the other
because I
one.
live on 47.
Yeah, it just says has
You don't
a
have to live there to know
significant
that.
gap from 41st to 51st Street.
yeah, that's,
That one
Well,
is
then there's
also-
another gap though.
And
It's
then from 51st Street
There's one.
Yeah.
One
to
gap.
54th Street. So
It
really, we're
happens.
talking about from 41st Street to 54th Street.
53rd.
No, 54th Street, that's where the bridge is. The bridge that ties into the mainland.
Okay.
So 41st is 54th Street is how I would propose modifying this. And then leaving the, and then ending the sentence. As a significant gap from,
Okay, let's modify it to 54th Street and then I will double check it and get back to you, Brendan.
have a nice one.
thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
one other,
Mhm.
actually quick note. Does the committee want to delete this section where it says the East Midtown Greenway will create a waterfront esplanade?
Right.
From 54 to
Yes.
59 streets, because that all already happened.
Yeah, take out
Yes,
the whole
just take
sentence,
that whole, exactly,
Take out,
the whole sentence.
to the end, yes. Wonderful.
This reads much better.
We're all okay with this?
Yes.
All right. Last one.
Oh, we're gonna get rid of that, because this new proposal isn't a pedestrian bridge to fix the pinch point, but
Right, it's gonna be,
but an outboard, esplanade similar to what is north of 54th Street.
Mhm. I think with the project funded, that we can get rid of it. I think we can feel pretty certain that even though it'll take 5 years, it'll get done.
And it's fully funded, right? Ready to go?
Yeah.
We don't need it.
I think it's.
Then we can take that out if there is no objections.
They'll come back to us and say, already done, please remove.
and I've even put down his rank as to remove.
Perfect.
I'll still be alive this time. Hopefully.
I believe that's the last one.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Did we purposely skip over the Mount Sinai Beth Israel bed thing?
We took it off
Or you took it
for
off?
this month, but I do have something to say about that in the chair's report, which is nice.
Fantastical.
Okay, so the first item is the MSBI. So we're going to split it up into two components. There'll be the hospital component and the campus component. The health committee will handle the hospital component largely. Our responsibility will be taking on the campus component, so I'd like everyone to start thinking about how we can create an affirmative vision of what we want to see on that campus site. And that will be coming up soon. The next thing is that we're attempting to schedule a meeting with the New York State Environmental Department to talk about the reservoir and how that impacts New York City and etc. And then the last thing, if I can read my handwriting.
Sure, which reservoir?
The curtain.
Right.
Wait, did you say we're trying to get in touch with New York State?
Yeah, so we've been trying to schedule a meeting, right, Brendan?
Yeah, but there's jurisdictional.
The reservoirs are DEP or city DEP's assets. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, try to straighten, like, I guess, to then get city DEP.
Right,
That's-
they own it.
Yeah.
Cause originally we came to city DEP with questions about aquifer health and they were like, contact state DEC.
Yes.
And then we sent our request to state DEC and they were like, this should go to city DEP.
Yeah.
So
we've
we're
been
talking about issues like salt, in the roadways getting into the reservoir.
Oh, I see. Incredible. Yeah.
And then so, yeah, the salinity, have you seen the report? The salinity is noticeably high apparently. And then finally, as I kind of previously mentioned, we're gonna have an upcoming reso on the DP and DEP on resiliency support.
Yeah.
And does anybody have any old or new business?
I just wanted to raise perhaps a possibility of doing something with Stuyvesant Cove and that area, down the Brown Walk. Two things, perhaps it would be worth considering doing a conservancy for that area, setting up a nonprofit and doing some funding for it, or trying to obtain funding for
This
it.
is beyond the Stuyvesant Cove Park Association. That's,
I mean,
that's the group that
But it-
Barney Barrett runs.
Right, but if he's talking about the Patrick.
I'm
J.
talking
Brown,
that and Brown
it's different.
and the Brown area.
Well, that one doesn't have,
Two things.
that doesn't have anybody
Well, he's,
supporting.
Right, and I sent the photos to the office. There was graffiti I saw that had been put up over the summer. Where the brand new area had been built out. And if you have a conservancy, somebody can address that immediately, you know, and get a professional crew in there.
And Jim, there's also a gap in the jurisdiction behind or west of the flood wall. The Stuyvesant Cove Park maintainers who are with Solar One are not responsible under their lease to take care of the bikeway and the area next to
This was
the
the
parking lot.
Yeah, the graffiti was on the seating area.
That would be their
Opposite-
responsibility.
Yeah, it was on the seating area opposite
That's
the ferry, which brings us to the other, and it's a nice good segue, since you're talking jurisdiction. I think we should probably plan to, nothing's settled now until January, when we see who the council member will be and who the new assemblyman will be and who the, well, state senator is gonna be presumably the same. I think we should do something to settle up the jurisdictional issues that we described, that came up earlier. There's just too many different pots trying to address a very small area.
So,
Of the city.
we're talking about Council District 4, currently occupied by Powers. The Assembly District 74, which.
And 2,
is Harvey Epstein's.
right,
And then, Kristen Gonzalez's Senate District.
right. Right, and we should figure maybe January, February, once they get their feet wet. That we should approach them about getting this. It's like a bowl of SpaghettiOs of who controls what, and it really should be addressed.
As I said earlier, I wanted to, bring up, I don't know if this is, I think it might be the right committee, but, when we talk about affordable housing, it's always rentals. It's always subsidized rentals, it's rent stabilized, it's whatever. And there is a different option. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what is known as HDFCs, which are income restricted co-ops, where you could buy into co-op. The taxes are subsidized, so the maintenances are ridiculously low. You could have a $300 a month maintenance on a 2-bedroom apartment or 3-bedroom apartment, and it's income restricted. And what I find is that, instead of encouraging roots in a community and the pride of ownership and being able to give something to your child, or, it becomes your own, we keep building these, transient rentals, as opposed to giving the community the opportunity to actually build their equity. I mean, there is still a loophole in the law that I want to close up, which is that Nepo babies whose parents have, $4 million and the kids do basket weaving for a living, have very little income, but the parents come and plunk down whatever money for these HDFC units, and they go in the millions of dollars because there's no limit to the price at which they can be paid, which that's a loophole that can be closed. But I really think we should start thinking in terms of permanency and pride of ownership, and trying to, I did that survey that was sent through, and that was one of the things that I've had the pleasure of selling in HDFCs, which I take great pleasure in because it helps people with low income. And I think it's important to start creating a permanent community of homeownership. And that's affordable housing to me. Affordable housing is not being subject to constant rentals.
Unite Here, the International Ladies Garment Union workers have one over in Chelsea that's been there since, I think, World War II, maybe a bit earlier. Yeah, it's been there decades. Very successful community, and they limit how much appreciation. So if you own a unit, you go to sell it, there's a limit to how much you can sell it for.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be.
No, I
because-
agree. I've thought that for a long time,
And,
100%.
it's, I'm probably never gonna become a millionaire being a real estate broker, because, I have principles, and it really bothers me. It really bothers me when, you come in these.
We'll see on Shark Tank, come on.
Barbara's the one who hired me.
I think
Barbara.
all good
Yeah,
ideas,
adventure.
and also duly noted on the affordable housing as a multifaceted thing, and we can focus on more than just renting. I hope to work with housing
I think
as
that's
well.
a great idea.
The one,
I think it's a great idea to work with the housing committee.
I think we really need to work with the housing committee.
I think the land use committee can certainly do a lot as far as working with them larger legislation that applies to land use, and certainly housing can help.
It's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, I know.
Double agent.
I'm the token housing guy, I guess.
You're also the chair of the commission.
She's
I
right.
am.
She's right, though, is that, we create an environment that's very transient.
Transient.
It's a transient environment throughout the city. You
Well,
got people now who are gonna be,
I,
here maybe 3 years, 5 years.
Sure,
Tops.
I will say that we can talk about this further in a real
Yeah,
agenda
sure.
item, but this is noted for new business.
and I will say, Tanya, if you have legislation, as you mentioned previously, I encourage you to email Brendan, who will probably email it to the rest of us, so we can take a look at that too, and see if it's something that we can discuss at the housing committee as well.
Yeah, and I could send Brendan some information on HDFCs and how they work and, you know, and it really is a great way to
Yeah.
to build stable communities.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Okay,
You're dying to go home.
well, I would love to discuss this as a future agenda item, but, want to keep it short for new business. So if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no
Check your
further
vote
business, the meeting is
registration.
adjourned at 8:26 p.m.
Thank you, Maria.